Hello, MMA fans and betting community. We're back with another episode. I'm going to be giving you guys a pretty nice plus money parlay, safe picks for the Allen versus Craig card coming up this Saturday. I got a lot of solid picks on this card, so if you're inside the Patreon, you're going to get the full picks and parlays, maybe some prop bets as a little sprinkle, a little cherry on top of the cake. We like to do that here and there, but we've been doing so well on the parlays. We don't have to be greedy, to be honest. And was it 2 weeks ago we hit a plus 1,460 parlay. We only got one wrong, and then last week we only had one wrong. Almost all the parlays except for one cashed in, so it looked great. We're on a nice little streak right now. We're going to talk about a couple easy fights. There's a lot of Contender Series alumni coming back. But these are solid guys. I love doing parlays on these Contender Series because there's always great underdogs. I make a killing off of two-leggers. You don't have to go crazy with 5 or 6-leggers. A lot of times with these Dana White Contender Series cards, with a two-legger, you're at plus 400, 500 odds sometimes. So I'm really excited to see these guys coming back. Some not so much. We got a couple fades on the card, so this should be a fun, easy night to make some good money on. All right, let's get started with. I'm going to give you guys 2 picks on this card. We're going to get started with one of the fights is Dana White guy Parkin versus Machado. Machado is a guy I'm not very high on. If you studied his fight tapes, he's fought against a lot of cans and nobody very impressive at the UFC level. Where Parkin is a guy, man, he's the perfect definition of what MMA has evolved to. He's the evolution of what MMA is now. The guy's gonna be trouble if you don't got like some very strong suit. If you're not like some high level like Alex Pereira type of kickboxer, and at that in that division, there's not many of those. But you got to have some crazy like Dagestani type of wrestling to nullify what he does overall. The guy's just like his top control. If he gets you to the ground and he's got power and he even breaks you down, he's not one of those like heavyweights first round or bust. He's gonna stay the same pace, the same pressure, volume all 3 rounds. So until he gets to the top of the division, I don't see many people giving this guy a problem, especially once he puts the volume in. Not many people can match that volume at that, almost nobody in that weight class. But once he pressures you and his wrestling's not, he's got that MMA wrestling. It's not like freestyle or Greco-Roman wrestling, but MMA wrestling is a lot more effective than standard wrestling, to be honest. It works a lot better in the cage. So he's not the greatest at anything, but he's not bad anywhere. He's just good everywhere. That's the evolution of MMA. That's the new breed of fighters. That guy's the perfect definition of it. He's not undefeated for no reason. You don't really see him even having trouble in any of his fights. He makes decent fighters. He hasn't fought the greatest competition, don't get me wrong, but he makes those decent fighters that he has fought look bad, like they're out of their class. And a guy who's just starting, so we're going to get some good odds on him. He may be a big favorite, but this guy should be a much bigger favorite, especially when you look at his opponent's last outing. He fought against somebody who was on their worst night ever. The guy wasn't doing anything. I don't know if he was injured or the spotlight got to him, but for one reason or another, his opponent was just a statue. He was not doing nothing. I don't think he threw anything. Like even the commentators were saying, I don't think either of these two should get contracts. But I think it was like one of the weeks where they even gave that Mexican dude who got annihilated by that Russian guy, the tall Russian guy, killed him, and they still gave the guy who lost a contract. So I think they were in one of those moves, and especially because they need heavyweights. All this shenanigans going on right now with the interns, and so they definitely need some people in that weight class, and that's probably why this guy's here. So anyway, easy pick, even though he's slightly, he's a moderate favorite, not a huge favorite, but definitely good value when you're gonna parlay him. And the second pick I'm gonna give you guys is a great value lock, a play that should be a huge favorite, and he's barely a favorite. It looks like it's even swinging the other way for some reason. But let's see, the next one, me with names. We're going to talk about, I see why they kind of, these are casual. In my opinion, if you're at the level of I am when it comes to being such a hardcore fan, betting experts, these guys who make these lines, I call them casuals. So their odd making is horrendous, if you're asking me. So they got Rafael Estevan, another guy who's undefeated. So this parlay is going to have two guys with no losses, each of them undefeated. Rafael Estevan, Macapa they call him, he's going against Energy Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson, he looked like a killer in the regional scenes. He was doing great. He's, you know, bumped into some, you know, he's had his highs and lows in the UFC. He's looked good in some fights, but you'll notice he struggled the most against guys who like to use grappling. You know, the Durden fight, the Makayev fight. He was just completely outclassed. It wasn't even, he didn't even show a good account of himself. And just, you know, he's just, I don't know if he's not training as hard either, but he looked a lot better in the regional scene when it comes to physical. Not just, you know, I know you're not gonna look as good when you stepped it up to the big leagues, but just his output, his heart, his stamina, all that seems to have like as if he's just not training as hard as he used to. And you know, I'm a gym rat. I used to live in the gym, so I know that I can spot these things much easier than most people could. Anyway, so for that reason, we're going with Rafael Estevan. He's a very small favorite. I think he's somewhere at like 140, 130 range. Some sets even have it at 125. So, you know, he's almost at a pick'ems. And that's ridiculous, especially, I mean, look, his last fight or so, I think the guy was averaging 6 takedowns per minute. And he's one of those, you know, his tenacity, he's ferocious. He doesn't give up. He's not like that Bonfim guy who's got all the skills in the world. This guy's got skills, but he didn't have the heart to carry on when, you know, when things got rough. This guy got that. He's not going to, you know, wilt and just fold if things get difficult. And Johnson's a guy who comes in like spurs of he'll have his moments, but he doesn't have the IQ to know where to keep the fight and, you know, how to. He's the kind of guy who will get in the clinch when he's supposed to have some separation. Like, you can't trust him. And Estevan's not that guy. He's quite the opposite. He knows where to put the fight when he needs it, where he's just good everywhere. You know, they're about the same size. There's no big advantages on either or side. So it's going to come down to who's the younger, hungrier lion. In this case, it's Estevan. It's, you know, on the feet, it's going to be a little bit of a difficulty for him, but this is a guy, again, he uses chain wrestling even when he's winning fights. So if he, you know, if he just comes in as the fighter, we've seen him in all his fights, and he's fought some good. This is not one of those guys, like even a Khabib, you know, one of the greatest of all time. When he got into the UFC, he was like 12-0. Those 12 wins combined, those fighters probably didn't even have 5 wins on their in combination. All 12 of those fighters didn't have, but he's fought guys with like 1 loss only, and he's put them away in the later, towards the end of the 2nd round. I think that guy, he finished even in the 3rd round. So he's going to be dangerous. He's not going to fade away. He'll get better as he makes his reads. Johnson's, you know, doesn't have, he's kind of like a one-trick pony. You know, he's not showing any improvements. He doesn't show that he's getting any better. I'm sure his teams studied this guy, you know, like the back of their hands now. They're going to know what he's coming with and what they're going to need to do to, you know, make it an easy night for him. So if you ask me, this guy should be at least, probably even a bigger favorite than Parkin is. It should be an easy fight for this guy. So if you combine them together, we're looking at the plus 20, 130 range almost, like plus 125, something like that. So for every 1,000, you're winning 2,000, you know, almost $300, like about 250, something like that. All right, so good money, good value, easy picks, guaranteed locks, and we'll post hopefully another video towards weigh-in face-offs. I like to do my examinations. If you're inside the Patreon, you'll get the full picks and parlays after I do my weigh-in observations. I like to see them face off, see how they stand next to each other. Anybody have any weird weight cuts? Like that Roberts guy last week. Oh man, I mean, yeah, he was a big underdog, last-minute replacement, but dude was dizzy on the scales. He even dropped his towel on the floor. You need to help. Like, the guy was just discombobulated. It was no surprise that, you know, he was out of there in the 1st round as quickly and easily. So yeah, well, I'll be making those examinations, those observations, and posting it inside the Patreon. The link will be in the underneath the video. You can click on there, or you see my social media accounts. I have a Twitter, Instagram. You can see some of the recent parlays we made from the Piera UFC 295 card. We did very well. Made a lot of good money there. And the ones before that. So, you know, my bulletproof system I use inside the Patreon, it'll pay itself off after your first week using it. I basically use a tier system. I invented it myself. I break down, you know, in 3 different tiers: tier 1, 2, and 3. Who's going to be the most confident, semi-confident, and risky picks? But you'll get them all. You'll get all the picks, and then I put them in different intervals, and I tell you how much of your money to allocate where. So it's designed so that even if we get 3 or 4 wrong, we're still going to at least double our money. If we're on a good night where we only get 1 wrong, sometimes you've had no wrong, you can make 5 to 8 times your money back. So I like this weekend's cards. Not, you know, a lot of mismatches, a lot of good value picks, not too many big favorites. So I'm excited. See you guys in the next video. Good luck.